It is Thursday, the 27th day of April 2023. Good evening and welcome to Newswatch and Hope TV, the station where you look and live. I'm Tess, Njenga, and our sign language interpreter is Boniface Mureithi. Tonight on Candid Conversations with Tess, we will be talking about domestic violence. We are hosting Reverend Jane Jasmine Njenga, the Secretary General of Global Apostolic Leaders Network, GALN, who survived domestic violence together with her children. That is a conversation you do not want to miss at about 9:30 p.m. We will also be streaming live and are streaming live currently on our social media platforms on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter at Hope TV Kenya, and appreciate your feedback. First, let us take a look at the day's stories. Now, Interior Cabinet Secretary Kithure Kindiki has said televangelist EZEKIEL Odero is facing criminal charges of mass killing of his followers. In a statement, Cabinet Secretary Kindiki said the New Life Prayer Center leader and church leader who was arrested earlier today is in Kilifi is being processed for charges. He was arrested on Thursday morning from his home in Mavueni, Kilifi County, by DCI sleuths and presented at Regional Investigation Headquarters in Mombasa for grilling over claims his church is also involved in occultism. Coast Regional Commissioner Rhoda Onyancha confirmed the arrest of the pastor. Gloria Musimbi with more.
New Life Prayer Center and church pastor EZEKIEL Odero's arrest comes just a day after he was questioned about the alleged links to the leader of a starvation cult, Paul Mackenzie, who has led to the deaths of at least 98 people in the country. While confirming the arrest, Coast Regional Commissioner Rhoda Onyancha said that Pastor EZEKIEL was arrested on allegation of the deaths that have been occurring at his premises and reported to various morgues or institutions.
We have arrested Pastor EZEKIEL Odero of the New Prayer Center and Church at Mavueni in Kilifi County on allegations of the deaths that have been occurring at his premises and reported in various morgues or institutions. We've also taken action and closed down the prayer center going forward.
He is currently at Coast Police Headquarters for interrogation, accompanied by his lawyer Jared Magolo. Addressing the media at Regional Police Headquarters, Magolo confirmed his client is undergoing grilling, though termed it's a clues fishing expedition.
What I can call wild questioning. Fishing. When you try to fish, look for things that don't exist. That's what they were doing. It's fine, it's okay, he's cooperating with them. And we are waiting for them to tell us what they are deciding to do. I have no idea what they can come up with.
Muslims for Human Rights Muhuri Chair Heli Khalifa condemned the government for barring media and civil societies from accessing the Shakahola land owned by the controversial evangelists in Kilifi County, where the exhumation of bodies is taking place.
We suspect probably out of those graves, probably they are graves of alleged terrorists, which were buried maybe 2-3 years ago. Now, if they unearth and the DNA prove that these skeletons don't belong to the church, so it will raise a lot of question. Unless the government tells us why they are shutting media, civil society, and all other players, this is a national concern, and everybody is concerned. Not only in Kenya, but the whole world.
The government declared a dusk to dawn curfew within Chakama Ranch Shakahola village in Malindi, Kilifi County for 30 days. Interior Cabinet Secretary Kithure Kindiki, in a circular dated Wednesday, April 26th, stated the curfew will begin at 6 p.m. and end at 6 a.m. Gloria Musimbi, Hope TV Newswatch.
Thank you, Gloria, for that report. Now, the government has increased the county equitable share by 15.4 billion shillings. This means that counties will receive 385.4 billion shillings in the 2023-2024 financial year, as compared to the current 370 billion shillings. The new figure is equivalent to 23% of the accounts of revenue for 2019-2020, which is the most recent audit approved by the National Assembly. The move follows the assenting of the Division of Revenue Bill by President William Ruto. To reduce development imbalances in the country, the Equalization Fund was allocated 8.3 billion shillings. This is an increase of 1.2 billion shillings from the current financial year's allocation of 7.1 billion shillings. In the new developments, the devolved units will also be allocated a further 11.1 billion shillings as additional allocations from the national government share of revenue. The enactment at State House paves the way for the preparation of the annual expenditure estimates for the 2023-2024 financial year. The enactment is, however, a blow to the county governors who were seeking for 407 billion shillings. Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua has called for enhanced collaboration among all stakeholders led by the security sector and criminal justice to end the menace of alcohol and substance abuse in central Kenya and the country at large. In a meeting that brought together different stakeholders, the Deputy President noted that the situation is bad, and if not checked, the country stands at a risk of having an entire generation wiped out. Recently, Gachagua held 2 consecutive meetings with the leadership from the central region, seeking a solution to the menace, after which the model used to solve the menace, if successful, will be replicated in all other regions.
This war must be won, and it will be won by concerted effort among the men and women in this room, agreeing that we have a problem, a national problem, and a serious one, and agreeing that we have a responsibility to save the next generation, not just as officers of government, but even as parents and as responsible members of the society. I want to appeal to you as parents to give this in your all. I therefore want to discourage any blame game in this room. I want us to look for a solution. A multi-agency approach on how to eradicate this problem, and cooperation between the investigators, the ones who arrest people, the ones who do prosecution, so that we can save the generation that is not already addicted. We have a program that we are working on with the county governments on how to deal with the ones who are already in trouble, and it's a huge percentage. We have asked them to look at laws on how vehicles that transport changa and other illicit brews will be forfeited.
Now, former President Uhuru Kenyatta, the facilitator of the East African Community EAC-led Nairobi peace process, has met with the French ambassador to Kenya, Arnold Suket, who paid him a courtesy call. Ambassador Suket lauded the facilitator on the milestones achieved through the Nairobi process and the continued collaboration with the Luanda process to restore lasting peace and stability in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, DRC. Kenyatta accredited the progress of the process to the commitment of involved parties in ending the over 2-decade dire situation and finding a lasting solution to the disputes. The ambassador assured the facilitator of France's continued support of this process, which is vital for restoring peace and stability in Eastern DRC. Well, the Mo Ibrahim Foundation is expected to hold a 3-day Ibrahim Governance Forum to address key interventions on current challenges of African leadership around the theme Global Africa from Friday throughout the weekend. President William Ruto, who will make a keynote at the event, will share the same podium with UN Deputy Secretary Amina Mohamed. Once a year, the Ibrahim Forum brings together a powerful coalition of African and global leaders to discuss issues critical to the continent's future. A series of parallel events will deliberate on youth development, climate change, governance, food security, healthcare, and energy access during the period. with the annual event being virtual in 2020 and 2021 due to COVID-19. A leadership ceremony to celebrate the in-person winner of the 2021 Ibrahim Prize, President Muhammadu Issoufou of Niger, will also take place.
This year, because we didn't have the opportunity to do it once again in person, we are going to celebrate Ibrahim Issoufou, former president of Niger, who is our last laureate. But we also take that opportunity to listen to key intervention around the current challenge of African leadership. As you may have seen on the program already, we will be listening to, of course, the president of the host country, President Ruto, but also Amina Mohamed.
I'm delighted to inform you that 100 of these are actually going to be attending the Ibrahim Governance Weekend, and we will see them in various capacities. So they are not just here as participants, but they are also here to be involved on panel discussions with leaders.
Well, on that note, let us take a short break on Newswatch tonight, and also stay tuned for Candid Conversations, where we will be trying to understand the impact of domestic violence after a few more stories. Don't go too far.
The presiding bishop, together with the entire leadership of Christ is the Answer Ministries, have the pleasure of inviting you to the Family Discipleship Conference 2023, themed The Choice, drawn from Deuteronomy chapter 30, verse 19. We kick off the conference on Wednesday, the 3rd of May at 5:30 p.m. and Thursday, the 4th of May through to Saturday, the 6th of May at 9 a.m., with the climax zoomed in on our millennials and zennials on Saturday. Guest speakers will be Bishop Callisto Odede, the presiding bishop of Christ is the Answer Ministries, Pastors Kingsley and Mildred Okonkwo, Dr. Wahomengare, and Dr. Stanley Mukolwe, among others. Guest artists will be Essence of Worship, Evelyn Wanjiro, Kestin Bogo, and Eric Smith. Register now for free at fdc.citam.org for a time to be equipped with biblical principles that make for thriving and well-informed life choices. See you there.
Welcome back. The government has been asked to allocate the National Youth Service NYS graduates grants to help them start enterprises geared towards economic empowerment. This emerged during the Police Reforms Task Force Shareholders Forum held in Embu, given that most NYS graduates find it hard to kickstart their lives after the paramilitary studies due to lack of finances. During the pass-out parade of the National Youth Service NYS officers in Gilgil on March 3rd, President William Ruto extended the term of the Police Reforms Task Force led by former Chief Justice David Maraga for 2 months, with an additional of a mandate to the team to review the terms of service for NYS officers. Commissioner Mudaura said it emerged that most youth in the county lack information on what NYS entails, to a point that most of them enlist in the hope of securing employment opportunity rather than training.
Not many people know what NYS actually entails, so some of them go to the NYS with the perception that it's an opportunity, a job, yet it's a training opportunity. So they're requesting that we recommend to His Excellency the President the necessity for NYS to create awareness using existing strategy or existing structures, for example, Ngao or any other structure, including Huduma Center and Huduma Centers, to have awareness created on the services that NYS can offer. The issues of recruitment, of course, came up, and there were concerns that in the recruitment drive, which is currently happening, most members of the public are not aware, neither are they aware of the expectations after the training and so on.
The Kenya Marine and Fisheries Research Institute, KEMFRI, is constructing a 40 million shillings wastewater treatment project to conserve the marine ecosystem in Mikindani, Mombasa. The European-funded project through UNEP will improve the quality of Tudor Creek, which has degraded mangroves due to human activities. Kemfree will use constructed wetland technology that mimics the natural processes of wetlands by using wetland plants, soil and microbes to clean and purify the wastewater through manipulation of physical, chemical and biological processes. Communities of Runyu and Giriamani villages neighboring the Siwa welcomed the project, saying they were suffering from other ailments like typhoid, diarrhea and cholera due to massive pollution.
Lakini Kenya Marine kupitia wanasayansi wake wameweza kuja na mbinu ile ya kuweza kusafisha yale maji kupitia kile tunaita kwa Kiingereza constructed wetland. Maji inapitishwa katika mawe hivi na mimea hivi, na tunatumia kile tunaita kwa Kiingereza natural organisms. Sinatoa ule uchafu wa yale maji, na maji ikiingia baharini inakuwa ni maji safi. Umuhimu wa kutumia hii mbinu ya tunayoita constructed wetland ni kwamba hii mbinu haitumii gharama. Ikishatengenezwa inaweza kukaa miaka na mikaka. Itataka tu kitu kidogo tu kurekebisha pale na pale, kwa sababu maji kwanza itaenda ile tunaita kwa gravity. So hakuna mambo ya kutumia stima ya kupambu maji. So mradi mwenyewe unakuwa katika cost inakuwa very minimal.
So idadi ya samaki itaongezeka pakubwa tukiongeza mikoko. So tukipata samaki wengi zaidi ni pato kwa jamii. Tukiwa na mikoko zaidi tutaweza kufanya pia ile inaitwa ecotourism ambayo itasaidia pakubwa sana jamii zetu.
Haya maji ambayo yatakuwa treated ambayo yana flow katika bahari, kwanza kabisa itahakikisha kuwa bahari yetu ni safi, haiko polluted, na hii itasaidia sana katika ule ukuaji wa samaki na vile viumbe vingine ambavyo viko pale baharini.
Thank you for watching Hope TV, the station where you look and live. For feedback regarding our programming, you can WhatsApp us through 0708 222 323, SMS 22232, website www.hopemediakenya.org, or scan the QR code below.
And now in business, Chief Cabinet Minister Musalia Mudavadi and Cabinet Secretary for Cooperatives and Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises MSME Development Simon Chelugui have called on Kenyans to embrace a savings culture as a way to increase wealth and sustain economic development. They have observed that savings volume accumulated by individuals, enterprises and government plays a crucial role in achieving sustainable national economic growth. They added that a savings culture, especially long-term, which will support investment for economic growth in the country, resulting in higher productivity and wealth, not only for individuals and households, but also to the country at large. On his part, Cooperative Cabinet Secretary Simon Chelugui underscored the importance to shift from social protection to social security, saying this will enable members to safeguard their future.
Ikiwa tunataka tuende mbele tukiweka msingi bora, siku za usoni zinaweza kuwa bora zaidi. Wakati walipoanza wakiwa kwa ile duka ile ya kando ile ndogo tuliona hapo, nani angefikiria tungekuwa sasa tunazindua nyumba ya orofa 8 na lift ndani yake. Ni mambo ya ajabu. Lakini wanasema yote yanawezekana. Kwa hivyo tukishikana vizuri, walimu na kila mtu itakuwa vizuri.
And Nairobi's New Skyline Global Trade Center, GTC, has announced the launch of a campaign to celebrate the rich history of the capital city as the country commemorates 60 years of independence. The campaign, dubbed Migrate Nairobi, will commemorate the evolution and development of Nairobi since independence and celebrate the city's rich history by showcasing its people, architecture, landmarks, road network, the rich culture, and so much more. The campaign will culminate with the setup of a treasured photo gallery, which will display the evolution of Nairobi from a small, dusty town to the bustling, cosmopolitan and modern city it is today. Speaking during the launch, Nairobi Governor Johnson Sakaja said the initiative comes at a time when Kenyans need to be reminded of the beauty and heritage of their country.
Lucky because we have my father's, the late Muhammad Amin's vast archive of images that contain content about Nairobi dating back to the 1900s. He documented this city for close to 5 decades, and his work is a timestamp of history that isn't available anywhere else in the world. To have it showcased on these walls will be something quite historic, I believe.
The underlining logic for us is we have the confidence about the Nairobi market. So that's why we decided to have do this long-term investment, and that's why we decided to actually the majority of the property we invested, we decided to hold for the long-term operation, and so I think we just decided to grow together with Nairobi City and the Nairobi market.
Nairobi doesn't have gold under the ground. It doesn't have oil. Nairobi doesn't have diamonds under the ground. It doesn't have a lot of minerals. Our greatest asset is our people. That is our biggest export. You know, the resilience, their vibe, their positivity, their hard work, and that is what is being showcased through this photography that we see. I look forward to actually seeing the photos that people have taken and that will be uploaded as we celebrate our city. Let this not end today, and I'm very happy we've discussed that we can be using this and many other places in the city to really showcase who we are. Let us partner.
Well, we now take a short break, but on the other side of this break is a candid conversation on domestic violence. Tonight, we are hosting Reverend Jane Jasmine Njenga, the Secretary General of Global Apostolic Leaders Network, GALN, who survived domestic violence together with her children. This is a conversation you do not want to miss. See you shortly.
Join John Carson every weekday as he takes us on a journey through the Bible.
Whoever shall seek to save his life, if you go back to living for yourself, you're going to lose it. But whoever shall lose his life, give up his life for my sake, he shall preserve it.
Enjoy interesting, knowledge-packed, yet simple teachings through his humor and in-depth understanding of God's Word.
The last people that tried to put God in a box, literally, he rose again. He wouldn't stay in their compartment. If God was small enough for me to figure out, he wouldn't be big enough for me to worship.
Tune in to Hope TV for John Carson every 10 p.m., 4 a.m., and 10 a.m. weekdays on Hope TV, where you look and live.
Well, welcome to Candid Conversations with Tess. Tonight, we are hosting Reverend Jane Jasmine Njenga. If you have not heard her story, she has an amazing story. She has been on Testify and Hope FM, and you can find it live on our social media platforms. at Hope TV Kenya and Hope FM. Welcome, Jane.
Thank you so much, Tracy.
I know you wear many hats, and I'm so honored to host you tonight.
Thank you so much for the privilege.
Please tell us what you do at GALN.
Okay, let me start by saying I'm a mother. Reverend Jane is a mother. I have 2 amazing kids. Not kids anymore, they are young adults. I have Baraka, who is 24 years old, and Faith Wendo, who is 18 years old. So I'm an old mother.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much, Tessie. I also work with the GALN, which is Global Apostolic Leaders Network. It's an organization of ministers, gospel ministers, that is bishops, pastors, apostles, evangelists, all church ministers. Yeah, so we work with ministers all over the world. I'm their general secretary for Leaders Council. I'm also their administrator, international administrator.
Wow.
So I travel a lot. Last week I was in Arusha, as you were calling. We are having a conference in Arusha. That is in August. Every year in August, we have a conference. So this time we are hosting it in Arusha, and we are glad to invite any minister who is watching us today.
You know, when I listen to you talking about this great ministry that God has given you internationally, I cannot believe it's the same Jane. I saw your story.
Testify?
Yeah, on Testify, and even before on other social media platforms of your journey. Please tell us a bit of your story, because of somebody who is listening to us and maybe they have never known your story of how you went through domestic violence and how it affected your children. Give us just a brief story.
Okay, Tessie, it wasn't easy, although I can't explain everything. As you said, they can watch on Testify or listen to Hope FM or even Tuko, A Marriage from Hell. So this is what happened. I got married when I was very young. And you know, those days we didn't care. So long as you, that was my thought, that once you get someone, that's your husband and that's it. So that's what happened to me. I got married and I didn't take time to know this guy. And our topic today will be talking about depression and all that. So according to my understanding is that like this guy had gone through a tough time or a life when he was growing up. And so he was this type of guys that we call narcissistic personality. I think that was the problem, because I didn't know by that time until when I started sharing my story, and people, that's when I came to understand that I was dealing with a narcissist. Yes, so what happened is that I got married, I had 1 kid. I was young, but I still had 1 kid. I'll share my story later. And so this guy, he wasn't normal, that's what I will say, because the things he did to me and my children affected our life, but I thank God that we are now recovering. Actually, we have already recovered.
Amen.
So what happened is that he was an abuser. He used to beat me a lot. And I remember, as I was sharing my story, last year I had surgery, which was very major, and I couldn't find a doctor here in Kenya. I had to go to India because 1, we didn't have a doctor here. Number 2, it was very costly because it costed me 6 million. So what happened is that one night, as he was used to beat me, he slammed my head against the wall. I remember we were coming from, we had visited a friend who had lost a spouse. And those days, you remember, we used to do mambolezi at night. So 2 a.m. as we were going back home, something happened, our car broke down in Eastland. And you know, Eastland is not a good place at night. So I told him, there's no way you can stay here because it's not safe for us. Why can't we leave the car at the petrol station? There was a petrol station nearby. And we go home. We were with one of his friends. So he wasn't happy with that because this car was bought by one of his ex-girlfriends, of which they were still in touch, even when I was still married. So he said, I know why you are saying that. It's because you're not happy about this car. So after that, we went home. And because of that commotion, he was very angry with me. And that's when he slammed my head against the wall. I fell down. I was unconscious. I was bleeding on the floor. And there are kids that I used to take care of. They're the ones who came and begged him not to beat me. And they dragged me in the bathroom. So the blood was all over the floor. And I remember my son, because my daughter was very young. She was barely, I think, around 11 months. But my son was around 5 years. So he could understand what was happening. Actually, throughout his life, that's what he used to witness almost every day. So he was standing at the door, and he was like, he thought, I'm dead. And so he was standing there waiting for whoever will come in and open the door, so because he thought I'm dead. And after around 30 minutes or so, I got my conscience back. They had already switched off the lights. There were no lights in the bathroom. So that's when I walked out the door, and I found my son standing there crying. The guy, after what he did, he went to sleep. He went to the bedroom and slept.
What?
He had no conscience at all. And so I woke up, when I got out of the bathroom, I found my son there crying, and no one is there even to comfort him. So I held him, I hugged him, and I told him, son, you know, mom can't die. So these are the effects that caused my son to be what he was, because he's now recovered.
Yeah.
When my daughter also got to know herself, she also found the same thing in the house. Beatings and all that, commotions, quarrels. And she also got into depression.
Let me ask, when all these things are happening, did you ever seek help? Did you tell anybody?
No.
Why?
That's the mistake I made. And I wish what I know today, I knew what I know today. Because I thought, one, I was a public figure. Remember, I still had a church.
What?
I had a church, and I was leading some groups. I was a public figure. So I was like, what will I tell people that my marriage is not working? Yet I'm the one to encourage them. So I kept it to myself. I didn't even share with my family. I didn't even share with my friends.
Even if you didn't share with anybody,
Yeah.
did you ever feel like walking out?
I couldn't, because the times I attempted, he was telling me, if you want to walk out, go with your son and leave my daughter behind.
And you didn't want to leave your daughter behind?
I didn't want to sacrifice my daughter.
So you felt trapped in
Yes,
a way?
actually that's what happened. I was trapped. And the other thing is that I couldn't share with anyone, because he used to tell me, if you dare try expose me to people, because outside he was so good. He was so good to people. Actually, if I tried that time, no one could believe me.
But what was going through your mind in terms of, were you not seeing that the children are being traumatized? Because now you are traumatized already, and now children are watching you being traumatized. And later on in the story, I know that there was physical, sexual abuse to the children.
Yeah.
Did you not at any point feel like enough is enough? Let me just run away with my children, for example?
I remember there was a time I tried. I called him. I told him, now, after that event, when he slammed my, because I got a nerve compression and I started ailing. Then after that, something else happened, and he beat me in front of our neighbors, and everyone was watching. And this is the words he was saying, one day I'll kill you. And so that stuck in my mind. I was like, okay, this is true. One day he will kill me. So I called him one day, and we went to a hotel somewhere. I was coming from job, and I told him, let's meet at the center, because there's something I want us to talk. And I told him, he came. We sat in a hotel somewhere, and I told him, you know what, Daddy? I used to call him Dad. He was older than me by 6. He was a widower. So we had 16 years age gap.
Wow.
So I don't know. I think, okay, my lifestyle was, when I was growing up, I went through a lot, because I didn't even see my father when I was growing up. So I think I was looking for a dad.
Like you were looking for a father figure.
In this dad, yes, in this guy. So I remember that time we sat down, and I told him, you know what? I don't think if it is the will of God for us to be together, because not that you are bad, and not that I'm bad, but it's like we were not meant to be together. And so I want us to divorce, because we did a church wedding. I want us to divorce, but I will give you access to come and see your daughter please allow me to stay, to go with my daughter. And he didn't say a word. After a cup of tea, he told me, let's go back home. We drove and he didn't say anything. When we got home, Tessie, I was thoroughly beaten.
Let me ask.
That day he almost killed me.
My goodness. Your mom is alive, isn't she?
Yes.
Didn't you even want to call your mom? And did you have any friend or a safe space you could share? I'm asking these questions because there might be somebody who is watching or will watch and is going through abuse. And they have nowhere to turn to. But perhaps they need to open up to somebody. What do you wish you had done better at that time?
Okay, what I did, I remember, okay, I used to have friends. And I used to tell them that, okay, not so many friends, but there's one lady that I used to share with. But this lady was a friend to my husband. So after that, I think they used to talk and used to bring a very bad picture about myself. So this lady was not trusting what I was telling her.
Oh, no.
So I was like, okay, no one is willing to understand me. No one is willing to support me. The other thing is that I didn't grow, my mom came back when I was 13 years old. So we didn't have that bond.
Who raised you?
My grandmother. Yeah, so I didn't have a safe place, a space where I can at least outpour myself and my feelings. So I didn't have anyone to share with. Remember, I was a senior pastor, so again, I don't have anyone to look up to.
Wait. Yeah. You are the senior pastor of a church, and you're being beaten up from time to time by your husband, and you have no one to share with.
I have no one to share with, because our bishop was, I didn't want to share with him because I knew he will tell me to walk out.
And you didn't want to walk out.
And I didn't want to walk out and sacrifice my daughter.
Didn't want to? Are you sure it is your daughter?
Yes.
Was this about your daughter?
It was about my daughter. Number two, I thought that's the lifestyle. I was so naive. Remember, I wasn't sharing with anyone to know the experiences in the marriages. So I thought, mwanamke ni kuvumili? Yes. And then, so when I tried, like that day, we went back home and he beat me up. So he kind of made me scared. So I didn't want to attempt again.
Of course, we as CITAM, we do not advocate for divorce, even for Christians. But what would you advise a woman out there who is going through physical, we're talking about physical abuse, not the normal verbal conflict or difference of ideas. What would you advise such a woman?
Okay, one thing, your silence won't help at all. Actually, the reason why my kids went through what they went through is because I went into silence. I didn't share what I was going through in my marriage. So I will advise someone not to keep quiet. Please share. It doesn't matter.
Do you feel like the church has enough platform for us to be vulnerable and share what we are going through?
Yes, but sorry to say that the church is also failing on that part.
What do you mean?
Because, like now, the reason why I wasn't sharing actually is because of what the community will say, what the church will say, what will believers say about pastor divorcing or leaving her husband. Yeah? So I think we have a good platform as church to come out and at least help. People are suffering. Families are suffering because it's not only the women. Even the men, there are men who are going through tough times in their marriages. We need to come out with, I don't know how to put it, but we need to come out and help because we are the lead, the church. But the condemnation in the church today, Tessie, I'm telling you, many will die.
You know,
a lot is happening.
That is quite unfortunate. But there's something about your story that got me puzzled, that you stuck in your marriage to the end.
Yeah, to the end, yeah. I never left
that is something, despite the beatings, life-threatening beatings.
Yes.
You stuck. What was your motivation?
My motivation is that, for one, I grew up without love. And you see, what happens with the narcissist is that they have two sides. One side, they are extremely good. And the other side, they are worse off. So when this guy is in his normal senses, he is in good mood, he was the best. So again, that's another thing that made me stuck in that marriage, because I was like, okay, if I leave him, who will love me like the way he does? I forget the bad part about him. And I used to embrace the good part, though it was very, very minimal. Yeah.
And to the children, was there times where he was very good with the children, and then other times, did he also beat them like he used to beat you?
Beating, it was only for my son. He used to beat my son very badly. He used to beat my son, and most of the time he used to tell him that, you know what, I'm not your father. I'm not, okay, that used to pain me a lot. And I remember telling my sister, I remember one time I told my sister, you can come for my son. You can stay with him, because now, so that I can take care of my daughter. So I'll be helping my son when you are with him. So, but this time he said, no, you got married to me. This boy became my son. I adopted him. So there's nowhere he can go. And that time I didn't know that he was also abusing him.
When you mean he was abusing, when you say that, what do you mean?
I mean he was sexually abusing him. At one point I left to college. That time I was very newly in that marriage. Actually, it was barely 3 months, I think. And when I left, and this guy, he insisted, actually that the time I had insisted that my sister should stay with my son. And he said, no, there's nowhere he's going, because he's in school. Now there's no need even to change him from this school, and I will take care of him. And you see, this is what I was looking for. This is a prayer for every single mother, to have a guy who will accept the child and take care of the child. So I was like, oh, I finally have someone who I can call the father of my child.
When you look back, as you hoped that he would embrace your son, there are single mothers out here who are longing to get married. What are some of the things you would advise a single mother to put in place so that they can protect the children they're coming into the marriage with?
Yes, one, never rush into things, because I didn't take time to know what kind of a father I'm looking for my son. So don't rush into things. Number two, take time, discuss about your children, maybe your son, your daughter, discuss about them. Get to know how this man will handle your child, because some will pretend. That's why I'm saying don't rush even to get into the marriage, but take time to understand. You know, if you're wise enough, you will understand the red flags. You will see them. Yeah, you will see them. So take time. Ask questions, as many as you can, because your son, your daughter is everything. It is not easy for them to hate their biological, but your son, it takes grace for a man or a woman to accept a child who is not theirs. Yeah, so we have to be very careful.
What was the impact of this violence to your children? I know that your son got into drug abuse.
Yes.
And your daughter?
My daughter, she wasn't in drugs, but she got into depression, where she used to harm herself. So when, okay, as I was, this guy was not even providing, okay, I'm sorry to say this because I didn't used to share about this, but I was, as much as he was beating me, he was abusive, he wasn't doing anything. I was the provider of the family. So I remember one time I had a business in Nyeri, and the business went down. I didn't have any other source of income. So where my son was in school, that time he was in Form 3, I had to transfer him to a cheaper school. That school I was paying 30,000 per term, but I found another school where I used to pay 7,000. So when I got him to the new school, my son's life changed, because remember, he was battling some traumas, and then I took him to a school that was not mentally supportive, I mean emotionally supportive. So that's where he got wrong company. And they started, I think he used to share about his feelings and what was going through his mind. And they used to tell him, you know what, this is you can use bangi and all that to ease the pain that you're feeling. So that's when my son started doing drugs. He started with bangi. Then after that, he graduated. I mean, he sat for his KCSE. He went to college. And at the college, that's when he got, you know, where now the network is wider for these things, the drugs and all that. So that's when he started doing other things. When he was in college first year, that's when one time he told me, Mom, you know what, I love you so much, but tonight I'm killing myself.
What?
You see, Tess, I was so naive, and I would like to advise people, when you feel like you're not in your normal senses, go to a counselor. Because I wish I did that, because I could have learned some language with my children. I didn't know what was happening.
So you really advocate for counseling and therapy?
Yeah, even for counseling and therapy. That's what has healed our family. Like, okay, God was in it, but through that, God intervened. So my son called, I could feel, I love my children so much, so we connect a lot. So throughout that week, I could feel my son is not okay. And so I called the school. I couldn't get someone who can help him. And I remember that night, when I called the school that very day, my son called and he told me, Mom, I love you so much, and you have gone through a lot to make sure that I'm okay, but I've decided to end my life. I already have the poison here with me. I told him, it was around 11 p.m. at night. I told him, please don't do it. I panicked. I told him, don't do it, give me a minute. So I called a couple, family friends. That guy went to be with the Lord last year. May his soul rest in peace. So I called him and I told him, you know, this is what my son has told me. He told me, let me call him. He called and he told my son, do this, don't kill yourself now, but come with that poison. I will allow you to do what your heart feels, but I'm sending you bus fare. Come first thing in the morning. I want you to come to Nairobi. We talk, and then you can do whatever you wish, but I will need to have a word with you. So my son came. He's a very honest boy. He came in the morning. Actually, I think he left Eldoret at around 3. Wow. Because by 8:30, around 9, he was in Nairobi.
What?
They sat down. So that's when I learned that my son is into drugs. I didn't know.
So that is why he was struggling with the addiction?
Yes.
That is why he
wanted...
wanted...
And he knew he's not doing the right thing. So he wanted to end his life.
So I think for the part 2, we will talk about the recovery journey. And also for your life. But there's something before we conclude this first session about your husband. The late, he is now deceased.
Yes.
But there's something that caught my attention about the story. When he was about to die, he kind of started in a form of regret to tell you that if he gets well, he will love you.
Yes.
When you look back at his life, was he okay? Did he go through abuse in his childhood? And what would you say, advise husbands who are abusing their wives and their children? Yeah.
Okay, what I will say is that, and I always repeat this, kids, you know, we all wish our kids to inherit whatever we have.
Yeah.
But we have to put this in mind that they will also inherit our character. My husband his lifestyle in childhood wasn't good. Because when he was in his normal senses, he used to share. And there was a time he was abused by an older woman. Yeah, this older woman, she used to force him into sex. And they used to travel even to abroad. And at some point, I remember him telling me he was sodomized in the toilet. He was raped in the toilet. That time I was so naive because when he says sodomized, I didn't understand what that is. So I think he didn't heal. And after that, he got saved. So I think he didn't work on his healing. So he started, and now he was bleeding on his family. He thought love is abusive because that's how he grew up. He was already
a wounded man.
Yes, he was a wounded man. You see, number one, he was sexually molested by an older woman. Yeah, 30 years older than him. And then he was, one time they were in Canada, that's when he was raped in the toilet. So even the love that he was trying to show is the love that he lacked in his childhood. But his way of loving was not the way it's supposed to be.
So sometimes we can really condemn people.
Yes.
But deep down inside,
Yes.
they are also suffering with their own trauma.
And you know, it's hard, Tess, for men to come out and speak and be vulnerable like the way women are. And actually, I thank God, because when I started sharing my story, that's when I healed.
Wow.
Last year, but one, I think, last year, but one, the first time to share my story on Tuko, that's when my healing journey started. For 42 years, I didn't know what it means to have peace, what it means to be loved. I didn't know what it means to love or to be loved. And so I will advise men who are abusive and women who go back to your background. Yeah. Look at the way your life was before and the effects that you have right now, and you'll get your answer.
Wow. What, even as we come to a conclusion, what's your parting shot to families that are going through domestic violence? Sometimes it's even the woman beating the man.
That's what I'm saying.
And at the end of the day, even if the person is traumatized, that's why they are beating the other person. We cannot allow we cannot wait until we hear of bad news until we act. So maybe just look into that camera and talk to a couple, talk to a family, that there is hope. What can they do?
Yes, there is hope. There is hope for you who are watching us. Let me tell you, there is hope. It doesn't matter where you are right now. It doesn't matter what is happening in your marriage or what is happening in your mind. I know so many people are wounded. And in our world today, people are bleeding while walking. They are walking shells. And I know you might be one of them, but I want to tell you that the moment you take a step back and tell Jesus, I am here, I need your help, He is more than willing. He is more than willing to change your life. I wish my husband was alive today and to hear what I'm saying today. I wish I had a way I can help him to recover. But I want to tell you, that husband who is fighting, who is abusive to your wife, let me tell you, that is a soul. That is a generation that you are killing. That is a generation that you are destroying. And you're not only affecting your wife that you hate so much, or you feel like you can't take it anymore. You are affecting, you are up to your last generation. Doesn't matter how many people are ordained to be in your generation. Let me tell you, you are affecting to the last generation. And for the wives who do, because it also happens to the wives, you don't respect your husband. Maybe you're not fighting him physically, but emotionally you have really damaged them. They can't even stand for themselves because of the effects. I want to tell you, you are damaging a whole generation. And God is calling you to come back to your senses and amend the fences, because God is willing to help you. The backup is there. Jesus is ready to give you the backup.
Reverend Jane, I am left almost speechless by your encouragement and the fact that you look back and you do not have hatred for your husband, but you forgave.
Yes, I did.
And probably for the next session, we will talk about forgiveness and healing, because that is not where you are right now. You are no longer the abused.
You can tell from my...
So that is where we conclude Candid Conversations tonight. Thank you so much, Reverend Jane, for making time. We will be having part 2 next Thursday, same place, same time. And the story doesn't end there, in terms of there is hope at the end of the tunnel. And she found love. And her children got healed. They are no longer addicted. So I just want you to be encouraged wherever you're watching from, that what you may be going through is not the end. There is another chapter to your story, and we will be talking about that next week. So don't touch that dial.
The presiding bishop, together with the entire leadership of Christ is the Answer Ministries, have the pleasure of inviting you to the Family Discipleship Conference 2023, themed The Choice, drawn from Deuteronomy chapter 30, verse 19. We kick off the conference on Wednesday, the 3rd of May at 5:30 p.m. and Thursday, the 4th of May through to Saturday, the 6th of May at 9 a.m. with the climax zoomed in on our millennials, and Zennials on Saturday. Guest speakers will be Bishop Callisto Odede, the presiding Bishop of Christ is the Answer Ministries, Pastors Kingsley and Mildred Okonkwo, Dr. Wahomengare, and Dr. Stanley Mukolwe, among others. Guest artists will be Essence of Worship, Evelyn Wanjiro, Kestin Bogo, and Eric Smith. Register now for free at fdc.citam.org for a time to be equipped with biblical principles that make for thriving and well-informed life choices. See you there.